Ah, Dark Souls how Miyazaki intended. It's often said ironically when mega cheesing the game, but in this case, I'm using it unironically. Put very simply, although Dark Souls allows a huge variety of ways to play it, I believe there's a secret, implicit, best way to play the game, and I want to unveil it. This is my attempt to play that perfect run. Hear me out. I don't believe it's a big stretch to call Dark Souls a Metroidvania game. Such games have large worlds with many paths to explore, but they gate off certain areas until the player has obtained the right item or skill. You might need a double jump skill, or the ability to walk over spikes, or the right key to make a door open. Well, Dark Souls has a similar format in a lot of ways. It has many explicit, hard gates, like needing the Artorias Covenant to walk in the Abyss, or the Peculiar Doll to visit the Painted World. Other gates are soft and simply make a tough area easier, like bringing a divine weapon to the Catacombs, or wearing the rusted iron ring to the Blighttown Swamps. What really got my gears turning on this run was noticing that the divine ember, which you'd want as a prerequisite to the Catacombs, comes from fighting the Moonlight Butterfly located in the Darkroot Garden. Those areas are not near each other, nor obviously connected in any way, and yet the game clearly wants me to visit the garden before the Catacombs. I wondered what other little breadcrumbs the game might drop about which areas to visit before others. Rusted Iron Ring is in the Asylum revisit, so that has to come before Blighttown. Izalith gives you the Sunlight Maggot, so you want that before visiting Tomb of Giants. I took little A before B sequences like this and I extrapolated an entire playthrough. Can I plan a route through Dark Souls that maximizes efficiency and minimizes retracing my steps by collecting all items before they're needed? And I realized, wait, NPCs tie into this very closely too. Sure, Sigmayr's quest involves following him all over the world and speaking to him in places that feel totally random and missable. But what if there's a route to play the game where his quest actually makes sense? Thus, the run became, can I plan an efficient route through Dark Souls that hits all NPC quests and collects items before they're needed? Then we have one more layer to add. Depending how closely you want to zoom in, you could argue that many more aspects of the game are low-stakes Metroidvania gates as well. I'm talking about taking advantage of Ornstein's occult weakness, or using the prism stones they give you in the archives while you light your path through the crystal caves. So tack on to that previous run statement that I'm also trying to use all tools for their intended purposes as well. But that's a dang mouthful, so because the general theme of the run is experiencing the game in a way that makes sense according to the world, NPC, and combat design, I settled on calling the run Playing Dark Souls How Miyazaki Intended, and actually meaning that unironically. Last thing before we get started, there are many things this run is not. I did not get every spell, nor covenant, and I'm not cutting every tail weapon. This is not a guide to 100%ing the game, there are lovely guides out there in other places. I do solve every NPC quest to its fullest extent, get all key items and embers, and I weirdly decided to fixate on using Divine and Occult where they're relevant. Have I completely lost you, or are you ready to check out the run? Let's get into it. We create a nice lad, tourist friend, and disappointingly start with the old witch ring just for like 3 voice lines way later in the game. Yeah. Because this run has us using divine and occult weapons at several points, and those scale with faith, I decide a faith build is the canonical way to play Dark Souls, but we start as a knight for the stats. After making it to Firelink Shrine, we grab the free items and do a little leveling. I love a spear in a Souls game, and I have my sights on the pike, so early game stat priorities are 10 dex, then 16 strength, which is enough to two-hand the pike. We do soon need 5,000 souls for key items at the Undead Merchant though, so don't blow all of your starting souls on levels. One thing the merchant sells is the residence key, which then gets us the gold pine resin, which we soon turn around again and use on the Taurus demon. This is the first of many times Dark Souls gives you a helpful item immediately before it's useful, if you think to use it. We meet Solaire and get the white soapstone. I eventually joined Sunbros on this run thinking that I would be using lightning spears in my faith build, but that was a personal choice. Co-op can be entirely skipped. Our next challenge is this boar guarding the undead parish. We sneak past upstairs to collect some alluring skulls in a conspicuous location right above the boar. I think some people lure it in for a plunging attack here, but I just invited it to roast itself. The basement key and mystery key both happen in the vicinity. Then because I want my pike, we hit up Andre and grab our first Sigmayr encounter while we're here. The church has a Firekeeper soul, and we rescue Lautrec before taking the shortcut back to Firelink. We talk to Lautrec there for a reward, then Detroit become human in order to summon both Solaire and Lautrec for the Gargoyles boss, where we're still using gold pine resin to win handily. After ringing the first Bell of Awakening, Oswald sells us the Poison Bite ring that will become very important later. Bloodbite and Cursebite rings are not scripted for this run the same way Poison Bite is, since those two come from avoidable enemy attacks, whereas Poison is just a fact of life in Blighttown. Next area is Lower Undead Burg, where we rescue Griggs, then open the cut. It's like a shortcut that isn't short. Back to Firelink Shrine in case we get goated. The female undead merchant sells us charcoal pine resin, which ended up only barely helping on this run, but we did use it against Capra Demon. Then it's back to Firelink for quite a lot of NPC content. Griggs is here, so we talk to him and learn a little bit about the clerics. Rhea is here with her entourage, but she's close-lipped when we meet her, so we have to pay Petrus to spill the beans on the clerics mission. We want Rhea to depart on her mission now, which you can save reload to accomplish, or just dip into New Londo real quick. Interestingly, by going this way, I notice Lautrec is gone too. He's off observing them and Patches. The lore! We save reload and Lautrec is back now. He warns us about Patches being a skunk. Another save reload and Petrus is back too, but he does not admit foul play. Lautrec saw what happened though, and he will chirp for the right price. And that gets Petrus to now admit that he abandoned Rhea down there. I was amazed just how deep this cleric quest gets when you do it right. Also, I'm not used to paying NPCs for dialogue. Now, veterans may know that advancing Rhea's quest has already locked us out of the Patches flipping the bridge on us encounter in the upper catacombs. This is an intentional trade-off that I chose for this run. See, Patches only flips the bridge on you if you enter the catacombs before Rhea. We would have to enter catacombs halfway, get tricked by Patches, then say no thanks to Pinwheel and claw our way back out of the catacombs to get the cleric's departing content, since Rhea will also depart once you kill Pinwheel. That goofiness, plus the fact that we still don't have a divine weapon, convinced me that skipping the first Patches bridge encounter is best for this run. Anyway, it's garden time. Through this area, we make sure to gather enough purple mosses for eventual Blighttown. We also need 3 clumps reserved for Sigmire, so I aimed for 8 total right now. We summon Witch Beatrice for Butterfly, and for what it's worth, Charcoal Pine Resin exploits its fire weakness. Winning that fight gets us the Divine Ember as well as the Watchtower basement key, and we're careful not to spend our souls on levels because we need the Crest of Artorias right about now. The Funk Soul Brother. Joining Forest Protector Covenant spawns Shiva and his bodyguard for some minor NPC content, and importantly puts Shiva in Blighttown as a vendor for later. We push a little further now to grab the enchanted ember near the Mushroom People and do a light genocide for a few gold pine resins, since these are neither freely available nor cheap. Then it's absolutely critical to back out without fighting Sif. She is way later. Blighttown is the midterm goal, but we do need the Rusted Iron Ring first, so it's back to the Asylum now by way of Firelink. On our Asylum revisit, Stray Demon feels a little strong for our level, but there's no way around needing the Rusted Iron Ring before Blighttown. We also nab the Peculiar Doll for Painted World much later. Next is Depths, and it turns out the Rusted Iron Ring is actually already paying off here, letting us move quickly in that water room with the rats and/or dogs. We grab the Large Ember and rescue Laurentius near the top. Then I make an error. We need to be in human form down near the basilisks to get a Knight Kirk invasion, and I just forget to be human in this stretch. Perfect run, shattered. We meet Dominhall, who sells a limited supply of gold pine resin if we didn't kill enough mushroom bastards earlier. Then I do remember to Detroit become human before the boss fight, because we need to summon both Solaire and Lautrec for this one. It's straight through to Blighttown now, where the rings to wear are non-negotiably the Rusted Iron Ring and Poison Bite. Once at the bottom of the swamp, we do one of the few farming loops this run necessitates. We need 10 green Titanite shards for a +5 divine weapon, which come pretty easily from leech enemies. I only took 2 loops to get them, so it's hardly bad. And Shiva's here too. After buying anything from him that we want, it's safe to leave the Forest Covenant. We Detroit become human for a Man-Eater Mildred invasion, whom we can then summon against Quilog. We again use gold pine resin and take her out pretty quickly. We ring the second bell, then speak to the Daughter of Chaos, whom we can actually understand thanks to our old Witch's Ring starting gift. It's also the right time to get egged for bonus Ingyi content. Our run is quite cash hungry though, so we cure the egg before it can tax us without representation. Climbing out the rear of Blighttown, we stop for our second Firekeeper soul, which is the trigger for Lautrec to assassinate Anastasia. Then, the New Londo key lets us ascend directly to Firelink. It's the perfect chance to stop off at Rickert 2 to donate the Magic Ember. Back at Firelink, we examine Anastasia's body for the Lautrec invasion item. Crestfallen Guy gets a call from Abba now that we've given a ring to both bells, and he will be hollow next time we visit New Londo. It's also our first access to Laurentius, so get spells now if you're interested in them, but we're merely interested in leveling our Pyromancy Flame to +10, which should be approximately in reach since we saved up our Blighttown and Quilog souls. We make an Andre visit now, perfectly slotted into the run on the way to Sens, where we deliver the Large Ember. We use it to raise a backup weapon to +10, and then we divine our pike to +5. Then Sens Fortress is right here. We get Sigmire encounter number 2. Then, a lot of you might overlook the lightning spear we're given from a mimic, but the timing on it is actually perfect. Lightning is the clear elemental winner against the coming boss, and Thrust is a decent physical damage type to use against it as well. On the roof of Sens, we conveniently get the Flame Stoneplate Ring immediately before the giant throws firebombs at us. Yet another subtle boon the game grants to those who think carefully. We also get a rare Ring of Sacrifice, which is actually something that I consider a requirement on this run. Can you figure out where? We strip down to have an easier time leaping the gap to this merchant who sells us these spell and thunderstone plate rings, and we grab the cage key too. This key gives us a shortcut back down and also rescues Logan to kick off his quest. Iron Golem is the boss, and we summon Tarkus for the assistance. We continue through to Anor Londo, then immediately to the painted world of Ariamis using the peculiar doll we grabbed earlier. This is our first payoff for divining our weapon, since it actually has a bonus against harpy enemies here. Did not really feel like it though. One small miss on my part is these bloated hollows who erupt into toxic clouds on death. If you kill them using fire though, they actually won't fart. Sadly, I did not bring fire. King Jeremiah invades us here on the cliff edge if we're human. Also, try turning off your in-game music while standing in this area. There are some terrifying noises near the edge. We get the Dark Ember here, then kill Priscilla before continuing through Anor Londo. While we do so, it's time for me to get on a little soapbox. Occult weapons are the one thing that I would kind of argue is a mistake in the context of this run. I hope I've demonstrated by now that Dark Souls has a pattern of giving you helpful tools before they're needed, usually just before. Ornstein and the Silver Knights are coming up soon, and they have an occult weakness, so getting the Dark Ember when we did is great. It's in keeping with that pattern. But ascending an occult weapon now without fast travel would require hoofing it backwards through Sen's Fortress to Andre, both ways, and it assumes you have White Titanite from a Black Knight kill. It would also require giving up the divine weapon we worked hard on and still need for the Catacombs, since occult weapons arise out of divine weapons. So making our own occult weapon is out. We are given an occult club for free, but we still can't upgrade it without White Titanite chunks, so we're stuck at +0. This thing hits for peanuts, even for me who has invested in both faith and strength. If we want to exploit the occult weakness of the Anor Londo enemies, our only option is the Sad Club. And hey, I've been in the Sad Club before, so I get it. My suggestion to improve would be either letting the giant blacksmith handle occult upgrades, or not asking us to need occult weapons until after we gain fast travel. End rant. We had a little Solaire encounter at the fire, and we have Sigmire encounter number 3, helping him handle the Silver Knights. It's time for Lautrec revenge to reclaim Anastasia's soul, and his trio went down easy. Now, I got to pike stab his pike friend with my pike, which felt sexual. Solaire is summonable for Ornstein and Smo, so we call the boy up. It's also time to put on our Thunder Stoneplate Ring. I intentionally take out Smo first, since I want Ornstein's boss weapon this run, but I also recommend taking out Smo first in general to anyone going for the Platinum Trophy, since that's a lot harder to do on NG+ with Ornstein chasing you down. Smo has weird resistances, by the way. Despite his thick armor, Strike is the worst physical type to use on him, and he's perversely weak to lightning considering his companion. Therefore, we employ the Lightning Spear from Sen's Fortress, and it does quite well. Ornstein has that occult weakness we want to exploit, and he's conveniently weakest to magic, so our split damage type is not too punishing, and we get there with the Sad Club. Phew. Lord Vessel acquired, and we're halfway done. We ascend a boss weapon out of Ornstein's soul now to up our poke game. Now, even though we got fast travel, it's not in the spirit of this run to abuse that and zip all over the world. I'm still doing my best to package up content in logical clusters for the rest of the run. Fast travel simply helps for getting out of a lot of those tombstone, end of a linear path situations. That said, our first errand has really awkward timing. There's a Solaire encounter at the Sunlight Altar if we visit Post Londo. Then, I originally had this trip scheduled later, but I did not know the Archives Golem only drops the DLC pendant after you've rescued Dusk, so we gotta go do that now. Please excuse the footage, it's totally from later in the run after I realized my mistake. Shh. The Sunlight Altar was in a good spot for walking down to the Havel encounter, and then using the Watchtower basement key to access Darkroot Basin. Rusted Iron Ring comes up again to help us fight the Hydra, then the Crystal Golem, and once we've rescued Dusk, we've now enabled the pendant to drop later. Finally, back at Firelink Shrine, we get Sigmire encounter number 4, and we revive the Firekeeper. We also speak to Frampt and place the Lord Vessel immediately. We cannot wait on this because, randomly, the next Knight Kirk invasion is gated on having placed the Lord Vessel. By the way, toss a coin to your wizards when you're able. Both Griggs and Logan eventually need buyouts, and the lump sum costs are around 180k and 120k respectively if you aren't making incremental progress. Now, the canonical first Lord Soul, as far as I'm concerned, is Bed of Chaos, which is perfect because we start off with a bundle of activity down in the swamps. We meet Quilana now, who requires some save reloads before granting us her quest to go kill Bed of Chaos. Then, ladies and gentlemen, this is Sigmire encounter number 5, where the purple moss clumps come due. Last, on the way to Demon Ruins, we join the Chaos Servant Covenant and donate 30 humanity to unlock the Izalith door. While the shortcut is nice, the real prize is Solaire living through to Gwyn. His other maggot ending is perfectly fine and canonical. I even prefer it from a writing perspective, but I believe keeping him alive till the end is slightly more in the spirit of this run. Joining the Chaos Servants Covenant also gives us a Chaos Pyromancy, which is needed to eventually trigger Laurentius content. We equip Flame Stoneplate Ring, which is generally helpful in this area, then we defeat Ceaseless Discharge without the cheese. Knight Kirk says Buenos Dias for what should be his second encounter, and the large Flame Ember is in the vicinity too. Then it's Demon Fire Sage, who, no joke, was my hardest boss this run. I don't know what it was. Even after perfecting Stray Demon, I just kept getting caught in huge hitboxes. This moment is one of those critically important moments. We have to back up and open the Chaos Servant door right now, killing the 9 Sunlight Maggots and getting our own sun. Without doing this, Solaire is toast as soon as we advance. But with the maggot risk gone, we bone back and summon Solaire for Centipede Demon, after which Solaire is sad. The orange charred ring from this boss gets us the Chaos Ember if we do a short backtrack through the Upper Demon Ruins lava now. There's yet another Solaire being sad scene in the maggot hallway, but we blast past on an Izalith path for several other NPC encounters. Knight Kirk's third invasion is here, and this unnamed pyromancer enemy, then it's time for more ass. No, not more ass, like swamp. We dive into the bog to resolve Sigmire encounter number 6 against the disgusting Trypophobia crew. Rusted Iron Ring is once again the hero here, letting us walk normally. Bed of Chaos gave me quite a bit of trouble this time, but I finally found a route that I'm pretty happy with. You sprint left on the outside first, then hug middle as you go right. Then die several times trying to just run down the center before finally finishing up Bed of Chaos and being done with fire areas. At long last, we now have the 5 prerequisites to take on the Catacombs. It's not just our divine weapon, but also a source of light, fast travel such that leaving is not miserable, and both fire embers, and we just only got 3 of these. The Catacombs are a breeze going this late, which is nice. Just make sure to grab the Dark Moon Seance Ring to unlock Gwendolyn. Because we sequenced Izalith before Tomb, we have both fire embers that we can gift to the Undead Blacksmith as soon as we meet him. It's perfect. I really didn't think that I would need a fire weapon, but just in case, I had Exactsies and I maxed out a Fire Great Scythe. And in hindsight, I do recommend a fire weapon for Sanctuary Guardian. It's pretty hard to find and access Leroy's summon sign, but if we Detroit become human in the Catacombs, he has a summon sign right above the wheel skeletons, and we bring him along to Pinwheel. Nobody is asking, but Pinwheel has a significant lightning weakness. Then, we don our own sun and continue through to the Tomb of Giants. Doing Pinwheel any earlier than this would have felt really bad when we had to climb back out after. The large Divine Ember is in the giant sarcophagus here, but I don't want to lose momentum warping out to Andre just to add a couple of levels to my Divine Pike, so we do not capitalize on this Ember. After the first bonfire in Tomb, we talk to Patches, and he tells us to check out the treasure. He yeets us, so we kill some Hollow Clerics, and we talk to Rhea, who is now saved. We talk to Patches again and say no to forgiving him for a nice bribe, and then from now on, he will be a vendor for us back at Firelink. We make sure to Detroit become human once again before we leave the dark area for a Paladin Leroy invasion, and we finally hit the payoff for our divine weapon during the Nito fight where we can stop his skeleton ads from respawning. Alas, against the actual boss, I just used my new Fire Scythe. He's a rather peaceful duel to fight one-on-one with the spawns removed. After Nito, we're not quite done with the clerics. We have urgent business now in the Undead Church, but that doesn't stop me from turning my Divine Pike into Occult +5 on the way. We have to immediately buy all of Rhea's miracles for her to depart this church, otherwise Petrus will murder her here. By buying her out, she instead makes it to the Archives prison where she goes hollow later. Mark another small miss for my run though. Apparently Petrus is supposed to confront me about saving Rhea and maybe even attack us? I couldn't get this to happen though. Petrus was just happy-go-lucky for the rest of the game. I may have had to speak to Rhea here, not buy her out, then speak to Petrus at Firelink. Let me know if you know. Okay, having just built our occult weapon, let's use it. It's Anor Londo revisit time, where we warp to the first bonfire before equipping the spell Stoneplate Ring and fighting Gwendolyn, who does have an occult weakness. Our nice long occult pike is also tech to hit him from a little bit farther away. Homeward Bone takes us back to the Nightess Firekeeper, who is now out for justice since we killed Gwendolyn. We kill her for another Firekeeper soul. From here, we're set up so nicely to take on the Duke's Archives. Seriously, how clean is this run? We walk in, grabbing the DLC pendant from the Butler. It's up the Archives to our first Seath encounter, which comes with a mandatory death, and I think you can get cursed too. That's where our rare Ring of Sacrifice comes into play, to hold on to our souls and protect from getting cursed. When we wake up in the prison, we get another Logan encounter, then get a cell key that lets us free and banish a Hollow Rhea. That is finally the end of the Cleric quests. Downstairs in this little chamber, we nab the crystal ember plus a key to go liberate Logan. There's also a gift of 20 prism stones we will want in a minute. We do free Logan right now so we can talk to him again in the little chamber where he is now willing to sell his spells to us even below his 15 int threshold. We buy him out, but it does take me a little farm. Sieglind is outside now, trapped in a crystal golem, but mine kind of glitched and I had to save reload before she would talk to me. In Crystal Caves, we use those prism stones we just got to light a pathway, then we defeat Seath, which is pretty drama-free. That triggers Logan to go crazy in the little chamber, and if we save reload there, he's back upstairs again for his final encounter. It's time to put this sorcerer in the ground. It's time to Logan Berry. Back to Firelink once again for quite a lot of bunched NPC content. Laurentius now gets excited if we show him our Chaos Pyromancy, and he yearns for the swamps. Damonhall has been here for a while, but I want that Dark Sun drip, so we grab the set and unlock some Damonhall dialogue because we gave him money. I think that's how that works. Griggs, if we bought him out, now wants to search for Logan. Save reload doesn't get him to leave Firelink ever, but he will actually still be in Sen's Fortress the next time we go. And of course, Sieglind is at the fire. We tell her we've seen her paw quite a few times, and if we save reload, she has a little more to say before she will depart for Ricky Lake. It's yet again time to do a bunch of swamp errands at once. First, there's Quilana's quest to turn in. Second, we meet Hollow Laurentius now, who feels super underbaked. He says nothing, just approaches us and dies for 1,000 souls with no drops. Now we continue down to Ricky Lake to witness the tragic end of Sigmayr's quest, and keeping to low altitude areas, it's now time to tackle New Londo. We handle the Hollow Crestfallen guy, then deliver embers to Rickard. The transient curses we're given are immediately used to kill ghosts so that we can reach Ingward for the seal key. But we do not go to Four Kings. Oh no. We actually pop back out the unsealed door for convenient access to Darkroot Basin because it's DLC time, baby, yeah. Is what I would say, except real quick, there's no other reasonable time for this errand. We give Andre the very large ember and ascend a plus 15 weapon if you want, but our real prize is a revisit to Sen's Fortress for a Hollow Griggs encounter. I think we went the wrong way. He just got bodied by a boulder. It's hilarious. Griggs more like grist. Okay, actually DLC time. The DLC is mostly linear. Sanctuary Guardian is much easier with a far-reaching weapon, so our Fire Great Scythe is actually perfect. Then we meet Elizabeth, we glimpse Calamite, and then we meet Marvelous Chester. Now, I don't historically enjoy Artorias like the entire Dark Souls community seems to, but this time, going in at light equip load and poking him with this cattle prod was actually kind of fun. Kieran is in his arena afterward, and she asks for the soul of Artorias. We have no reason to decline, so we happily hand that over. One of the last reasons we'll have to Detroit become human is in the Upper Ulasil Township, and we get a Marvelous Chester invasion. Weirdly, he's still present as a vendor after this. Then this interaction feels a little bit out of place for me. Wearing the Sunlight Maggot in Ulasil opens a door where we find Manus's pendant. We can use that during his fight to protect against his dark magic, but it also works against the sorcerers in the area. Down in the Chasm of the Abyss, Alvina leads us to Sif, whom we rescue. Then it's just make rips on Manus with Sif's help until we figure out the fight. The pendant reflects his dark magic, but ending the fight ASAP is also a good method of saving yourself. Next we meet Goff, then we die to Calamite once, so Goff will offer to ground him. We get Calamite so easy compared to Manus, and the DLC is finished. Back in present day, we can stop by Dusk again for some new dialogue to learn that Artorias stole our valor. Then we're in exactly the right place we want to be to take that huge ladder directly up to Sif at long last. This is my first time ever seeing this special Sif cutscene you get by doing the DLC before the Sif fight, and yes, it is rather sad. She drops the Covenant of Artorias, which allows us to now fight the Four Kings of New Londo. Which Beatrice weirdly wants to help for this fight, if and only if we brought her to the Moonlight Butterfly fight forever ago, and then we can grab her clothes in the Valley of Drakes after the Four Kings fight. We slam dunk our Lord Souls, we summon Solaire, and we face the final boss, Gwyn, making sure to use Occult to exploit his weakness. I also pulled off a parry, which is super unlike me, so that I could end the fight with style. Obviously, we link the fire like a good little faith user, and our perfect run of Dark Souls is complete. Praise the sun. This run was extremely fun to run, but even more so to plan. I adore theory crafting. There's a reason I like building magic decks a lot more than actually playing magic. Going through this run was actually just a vehicle to share this weird puzzle of a run I wanted to chart out. And there are two outcomes from this experience that I want to share. First, it amazed me during this run how easy the game can become just by using the right tools. By smartly upgrading weapons and abusing enemy weaknesses, this game became a breeze, and I even stayed at a modest level the whole time, not helped by the fact that I had to spend hundreds of thousands of souls on items and spells I didn't need. Even small stuff like using alluring skulls on the boar felt so obviously powerful. Being able to play with your brain as much as your reflexes changes this video game quite a lot. Second outcome, I feel a lot more connected to the NPCs than I ever did. It felt like Solaire was accompanying me on my journey rather than just appearing in random places. The Cleric's tale is a lot more compelling when you experience Lautrec's spying and Petrus's skullduggery. And Sigmire, well, his quest still felt random, but less so. Way back on my first blind play of Dark Souls, I could tell that there was a ton of interesting NPC content, but I felt like I was missing 60% of it by simply traveling to some area in the, quote, wrong order and causing their quests to break. If I had been told, even vaguely, hey, check out Undead Parish again after Tomb of Giants to lead me to Rhea, stuff like that would have been really neat. But then I would have lost the experience of having to discover my own route, so there's really no way to win. In a way, coming back after the fact and solving this optimal route is a form of closure for me. It's a paradox. This is the best experience you can have with the game, but playing this way would ruin your experience of playing the game. TLDR, yes, there is at least one route through the game that catches all the NPC quests in an efficient manner. The theory checks out. Okay, we're winding down. Thank you for coming on this journey with me. If you would have done it differently, I'm interested to know how. I admitted a few mistakes already, and I'm sure that I missed a couple more. My name is Jimothy, and this is my patented intro in the outro. I'm on Twitch a few nights a week if you would like to join my community over there. Thank you so much for watching. I am grateful for all of the normal interactions if you're inclined to do so. Until next time, have a blessed day, y'all.